work orders, not the sexiest part of fleet management, until your truck breaks down in the middle of nowhere and the only record you've got is a sticky note. Let's break it down. So what is a work order really? Is it just another form to fill out, or is it the secret weapon behind every smoothly running fleet?
A work order is a detailed record of maintenance or repairs completed on a vehicle or asset. It includes fields like estimated versus actual start and end, parts used, service tasks, technician or technicians, labor time, priority level, cost. You can add more, but I think those are the basics. Work orders are critical for fleets to really understand their maintenance costs, what might be causing an increase in downtime or where other inefficiencies are occurring. And having that record of repair really helps with compliance and long-term vehicle performance. As far as the digital piece, digital work orders just open up a lot of possibility to take that information that's being tracked and get something valuable from it.
Let's face it, spreadsheets have their limits, especially when you're juggling hundreds of assets, angry drivers, and maybe a filter change that was due 2 months ago.
Even if someone's using Excel, cost might be something that's pretty easy to evaluate, but if you're wanting to look at trends with repair codes or quickly see a breakdown of most common service tasks by location or group, it starts to get really time consuming. And digital work orders allow all that data entry to happen in real time. So triaging questions or pulling up a report and seeing a fleet in that moment or day is a game changer when it's needed.
Now here's where it gets juicy. Data. Real downtime, priority levels, repair types, the kind of stuff that helps you avoid surprises, like a sudden spike in emergency repairs.
Expected or scheduled start and actual start can be telling.
Spoiler alert, just because a job is estimated to take an hour doesn't mean it does. So how can tracking actual time save you headaches down the line?
The difference between those is downtime. And if that's something that's affecting a fleet, it's good to have solid numbers to quantify just how much downtime is occurring. And a few hours adds up across dozens, hundreds, or especially thousands of vehicles.
Preventive maintenance. The broccoli of fleet care. You may not crave it, but it keeps things running longer and smoother. Let's see how tracking priorities helps you plan smarter.
Repair priority is a great data point to include in work orders. So if the maintenance was scheduled, non-scheduled, or emergency, it's okay if the majority of maintenance costs are going towards scheduled maintenance, but without tracking it, emergency or non-scheduled repairs could increase, and it could take a while for someone to notice or bring it up. And then it's near impossible to go back and look at past work orders to figure out what could be causing that increase or what work was commonly done. Tracking estimated versus actual service duration gives fleets a clear picture of how long maintenance and repairs really take versus how long they should take. For instance, if certain maintenance is consistently taking longer than needed, you could take a look at the maintenance schedules and see if there are any adjustments, and then take a closer look at how that maintenance is planned. You can also look at estimated versus actual service duration by technician. Maybe there's a few techs who are able to complete certain tasks much faster than others, so you could even surface training or process improvements there. And digitally tracking that information really does allow fleet managers to slice that insight a few ways and to go back to see what's been happening over time. Sometimes data can be complementary when setting the context. So if a fleet manager sees a rise in the time between estimated versus actual service duration, but it was at a time when the organization was a few techs down, it's easier to use those digital records to understand, for example, yes, downtime increased, but the techs that were available worked really efficiently, all things considered. Tracking repair priority keeps fleets proactive instead of reactive. Fleets that follow strong preventative maintenance schedules experience a reduction in downtime. So completing scheduled maintenance when it's due and tracking it allows fleets to calculate PM compliance. Depending on a fleet's baseline, then it becomes a conversation of maybe things are going really well, let's celebrate. Or crafting a plan needed to bump up or improve compliance. Tracking repair priority is also helpful for understanding maintenance cost breakdowns. If a fleet sees an increase of emergency work and is seeing the cost impact, since emergency repairs tend to be more expensive, it's a sign to take another look at those maintenance schedules. What's the value of automating work order data collection versus managing it manually? So there's digitization of work orders, and that has its own benefits. One being, oftentimes you can set them up to where certain things are triggered or resolved in a work order.
Full versus digital. Manual. Paper, phone calls, sticky notes. Digital. One click, one system, no guesswork. Who wins? We'll let you decide.
When you're managing things by paper, a driver walks out and sees a medium-sized crack in the windshield on the driver's side. I'll send a text to the fleet manager. Fleet manager has to coordinate or approve a vehicle swap, and then let a technician or maintenance manager know. And maybe those people ask for pictures. Hopefully those are on hand. And then there's scheduling. It's a process. Digitizing work orders could look like the windshield crack is logged as an issue during an inspection. The fleet manager is sent an email alert the minute the inspection is submitted. That vehicle is automatically labeled as taken out of service. And then the issue, along with the comments and the pictures, can be added to the work order by a technician. They can also see it in the same system if there's any upcoming work that they can just knock out at the same time, like maybe a filter replacement, and leave comments throughout the process so everyone knows what's happening. Data is less likely to be missing or lost, and it's less likely things fall through the cracks when fleets are using digital work orders.
Want to use your data? Step 1, actually collect it. Inconsistently filled out forms, vague notes, that's how you end up with a report that says, well, nothing.
The biggest thing about collecting work order data is you can't use it if it's not there. And if work order details are inconsistently filled out across the team, that means there's going to be gaps. And trusting that data starts to get risky when it's being used to make decisions about how much a fleet expects to pay in the next month, a quarter, or the year for parts, labor, and maintenance. Vague descriptions or not categorizing service tasks can make it difficult to track recurring problems as well.
Is the truck ready? Was the filter changed? Who's got the latest update? If you've ever been stuck playing fleet telephone, real-time status updates might just be your new best friend.
Real-time status updates are great for making decisions faster and decreasing the back and forth that I hear about from fleet managers. A lot of the time I hear from those fleet managers that they are still the final piece in that puzzle that alerts an operator or driver that the work order is done and the vehicle is ready to get picked up, especially if the driver dropped the vehicle off and they're using a backup vehicle. But work order statuses still decrease the time it would take to finish a work order and then get the vehicle back out on the road. I've also seen status updates useful for fleets where a work order has multiple people involved. So maybe the technician or technicians, the fleet manager, maybe even a parts manager. So real-time status updates keep that work order moving between stages in approval more quickly than if those handoff points were happening in phone calls or text, or maybe it's a mix of both, and then the work itself is being tracked somewhere else.
So you've got data. Now what? Reports, insights, and some serious aha moments, but only if you know where to look.
There's a lot of reporting that you can get from work order data with the caveat that you are tracking it. So going back to, repair trend reports. So recurring issues across the fleet can help with decisions on replacing vehicles or adjusting those PM schedules. Vehicle downtime reports. So how long are vehicles staying out of service? And that can be really helpful when you're trying to identify bottlenecks in the repair process. Maintenance costs is the big thing that I always hear from fleet managers that they want to be looking at when it comes to work order data. So really granularly breaking down what's spent where when it comes to labor, parts, specific vehicles, locations where they can spot trends of where costs might be ballooning, where costs might be decreasing, and then where they can spend their time looking to forecast when it comes to how much they're expecting to pay for maintenance in a given time period. And reporting is really what I found to be kind of customized between fleets. There's some things that you're probably going to do on a monthly or quarterly basis, but for some fleets, it's even yearly. They may not look at a serious breakdown in that maintenance costs, or even wrapping that up in total cost of ownership until a very certain, part in the year, versus I hear from other fleet managers, they're running those on a quarterly or even a monthly basis. And then, they're scheduling to get those sent to themselves and to their stakeholders above them. But one additional point that I will make when I'm thinking about reporting is that reporting is wonderful, and it is great to see those insights. But the great thing about getting all of this work order data, again, is actually using it to improve your fleet and reduce those costs.
Getting started with a digital platform? Don't wing it. Start strong, stay consistent, and maybe, just maybe, future you won't be buried in a mountain of inconsistent records.
My top tip is to standardize the process from day one. A lot of times, it can be pretty enticing to acquire something and think, let's just get in there and do what we can and we'll improve. And I think for a lot of process, that can be done. But if it's something where you're really looking at what am I going to be doing with the data, again, monthly or, a quarter from now or a year from now, what do I really want to know when I'm putting my information into software? Taking a step back and really thinking about that and talking to other people too. So not just the fleet manager laying out, here's everything that we want, in the work order process. Getting other people involved, saying what does great look like and what can we also get everyone to agree to, including the technicians. Even if it's not necessarily having to get their buy-in, but maybe disseminating, hey, here's how we're going to be doing things. Still finding the balance between all the data that fleet managers and shop managers may want versus what are technicians really going to be able to consistently input or want to input, in all honesty. I've found that to be the biggest thing with when it comes to building out work order processes and platforms like Fleetio. I'd also say, just because you're taking a step back and you are trying to get what you want from that first piece, there's no problem with obviously refining. A lot of iteration happens and fleets change. So fleets might grow, there might be another location that's acquired and maybe they do things differently. And when you're evaluating, an acquisition and you're looking at their work order process and they're doing something where, something that you want to include, it's still a good time. Yes, you're not going to have the historical data anymore, but if you're implementing something new. But it's just important to keep in mind, when you're talking about running those reports of like, here's what we have, and then here's what we're implementing that's new. So we know it's going to take time before we can actually make any decisions based off what we're seeing, because we need 6 months or, maybe less to really start seeing what we want.
From priority codes to cracked windshields, this episode of Fleet 101 proves one thing. Work orders aren't just paperwork. They're the playbook. Because in fleet management, the details make the difference.